Okay, there we go. Hey everybody, welcome
Okay.
to Comedically Correct. I'm Andrew Holiday, and I'm here today with,
Me, Selena.
yeah, I'm sorry, I should have told you that I
It's
was
okay.
gonna, all right. Um, so, today, we are still doing the giveaway. This is the last episode of our giveaway with the stone protectors and a little bit of alcohol from Corey. Um, Today we're going to be covering Florida people, Kim Jong-un, or mental health days. We're going to talk about ourselves getting fired or maybe not getting fired when we should have, airplane fights, and the FCC versus the SNL, or Saturday Night Live versus um, practices and standards. So all that is going to be in today's episode of Comedically Correct. Let's go ahead and get started with you. How's it going, Selena?
Oh, good. I woke up an hour and a half ago.
Me
And
too.
so that's why my hair looks this way. And I'm wearing a t shirt.
I I exclusively wear t-shirts and I wear hats just so I don't have to do my hair.
Must be convenient. See,
Oh,
I feel like every time I put on a hat, I'm squashing my brain because my hair is so thick, it doesn't fit under most hats. Like, I know I could probably just get a hat that fits, but at what cost?
yeah. I mean, like, why? Why would you do that?
Yeah.
I I think Corey has it figured out with like no hair at all.
Yeah,
Never has to
just
worry about it.
shaving.
Yeah, that's
It's probably a good idea.
well. I think God's kind of taken my hair from me on its own. Like eventually,
Yeah.
like it's still doing okay, but I'm starting to see between the lines, and I'm not excited about it.
I wouldn't be either. But I think as a dude, it's not as like traumatic because like in my family, like female pattern baldness does run in my family on my mom's side. A lot of her sisters, they're not like bald, but their hair's pretty thin on the top, and it makes me very anxious.
Yeah, I think that well, it's very traumatic for me
Mm-hmm.
because that's all I got going for me is that I'm like, you know, minorly okay looking. Like I don't have anything else. I'm like not otherwise I'm not very smooth, I'm not very slick, I'm not extremely funny. So yeah, that's all I got going for me is mild good looks. So once those are gone,
You know, you could be nice.
see, I could be. People have told me that.
That's a
And
lot of effort, though. It is a lot of work.
I've tried it and then people say stuff and I'm like, "Well, I want to be funny, but I also want to be nice." And it turns out I'm not that funny, so it just turns out mean.
And it's like, well, that was just mean.
Yeah. That wasn't nice at all.
I have that same problem.
It's like,
That's why I don't talk to my coworkers very much because I'm like, oh, they're gonna think I'm mean, and I'm just making fun of them, and they're
yeah.
just getting all offended.
It was shoot, I can't even remember, but there was something that I was oh yeah. So there was this prank I played on this girl in high school, and I don't like her as like a person. She was a cheerleader, she was always too happy and too nice.
I
So
hate
like,
happy people.
yeah, like I don't know
Like, are
what
you paying attention?
me?
No, I mean like happy people. Are they not paying attention
Oh,
to what's going on? Like,
yeah. Like you have no need to be happy. Also, your life kind of sucks too. Like I don't know. Her
you're
name was
gonna peak in high school. Think about that.
yeah, she didn't even peak in high school. Like,
Oh, sad. So
yeah.
what is it that she did to you?
Nothing. She was just generally nice.
Gross.
Yeah. And then
I'm
so
disgusted.
and then so one time me and my brother, no, it was actually me and my buddy Nick were driving next to her on the way to school. And like I just saw her. So I was like so I got her attention from the passenger seat and I was pointing at the front of her car for no reason whatsoever. Just pointing at the front of her car. And she's like, "What?" And I was like, and she just like and she pulled over and we just kept on going to school. And just thinking about like her getting out of her car, looking at the front of her car, maybe calling her dad, not knowing what was going on,
Probably.
just just makes me laugh because she was so mad when she got
That's
back
pretty
to
good.
school.
Well, and that's a pretty harmless prank, right? Because you're not really hurting anybody, and you're not causing an accident or anything. You're just like, it's kind of an innocuous thing.
Yeah. It just, I mean, like, I just hurt her feelings as a
Yeah,
person.
you just hurt her pride a little bit.
Yeah, that's fine.
But, we could all do with a little humility now and then. Not me, I'm perfect, but, other people.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's what I keep telling people too, and they're like, no, you need to work on yourself. Do you ever meet those people that like that don't understand like constructive criticism? They take everything as a compliment. They're so up their own butts that they just kind of take everything as a compliment.
I don't know if I've met people that take everything as a compliment, but I've met people where it's like, I've told them like, hey, maybe you shouldn't do that. Maybe people don't enjoy it very much. And if you're in the business of asking people to enjoy their time with you, maybe you should want them to enjoy their time. And they're just like, nah. No, I'm
Yeah.
just going to do it this way because that's the way my favorite podcaster does it. I'm like, okay, well, that's fine.
Yeah.
You just
don't worry
keep on making people dislike you, and I don't know.
I don't know.
I guess it's a kink. I guess it's just.
Well, I don't know. There's people that have whole careers on just making people hate them. I don't know anybody that likes Piers Morgan.
Yeah, but I mean, those people make money.
Yeah.
And if you're just a regular, schmegular kind of dude, and you just want people to hate you because your favorite, like podcast host or whatever is like has a lot of haters, and you think like somehow you're going to be able to imitate that. I just think it's kind of sad.
There was this lady. Well, like her problem was that like she just like she was invulnerable to like criticism or anything like that. So another lady, I heard her say, she's like, and the other lady was trying to be polite, and it just went over this lady's head. But she's like, you don't need to make other people's problems your problems. You can let them deal with it themselves. What she was essentially saying, keep your nose out of other people's shit.
Mm-hmm.
That's what she was saying. But she was like, you don't need to make other people's problems your problems. And then she's like, well, I think that's just me. I'm good at noticing, where other people are making mistakes, and and then so she just didn't even like notice.
Yeah, she made it seem like, oh, I'm doing other people a favor instead of just like, you're
well,
being
that's
a
how
nosy
great I
bitch.
am. I'm just such a selfless person. It's like, no, you're just in other people's business all the time.
It's like you're kind of annoying to everyone.
Yeah. So, and I don't know, I just thought that was funny.
But that's also like, that lady wasn't, the lady who told her that wasn't being really upfront. Like she was trying to be like, put a little Southern charm on it. And it's like, you probably should have just told her like, mind your fucking business.
Yeah. But like, that's the other thing too, is sometimes like you try to help, like sometimes I don't like helping people sometimes because like they'll get mad at you and they're like, you're just jealous or whatever. And he's like, hey, I'm just trying to help. Like, and then like they get mad at you and then you become like a jerk in their eyes because like you were trying to give them a little help. So you're like, I'm not even going to help anymore.
Yeah.
This was like, there was a comedian, Trey. I don't know if you ever met him. He's a nice kid, but dude, he did nothing but pissed off audiences. And then so like I was trying to give him like some advice, and he just got mad. He's like, man, you don't know
thought
what
he
I
was
do.
being like an edgelord or something.
Yeah.
This is my art, is making everyone hate comedy. Like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, and I was like, well, maybe you should throw a joke in there or something.
Right. Maybe you should be funny. Because you can be funny and you can be dark, but it's not as easy as most people think it is.
Yeah. Like,
exactly. I don't know if we talked about that last time.
We did scratch the surface of a little bit. Actually, one of my brothers, his exact thing was we should go deeper on that specific thing when we're talking about like different types of jokes and stuff like that. So might as well.
Okay. Yeah. If we want to, like, what types of jokes? Like, what do you mean?
Well, like, jokes versus like monologues. Because there's some comedians that I would consider like, they're stand-up comedians, obviously, but like they're more monologuists.
Yeah, like Dave Chappelle.
Yeah, or Christopher Titus, stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you have other comedians that tell like jokes, like Mitch Hedberg, Anthony Jeselnik, and then like
Yeah.
the comedians that are
Nikki Glazer does a lot of that.
yeah.
Ali Wong does a lot of that, where they spend the majority of their time actually doing like setup punch instead of like opining on
Yeah.
systemic racism or whatever. Which is like I also enjoy the monologue type, but it's to me it's very far away from what not what stand-up comedy should be, but like what the general idea of what stand-up comedy is, which is like jokes. You do jokies.
I think that if you can be funny, like I think like the only rule of comedy is be funny.
Right.
But and then there's like 1,000 other rules. Like all the other rules are like subtext, like bullet points, like also. But
Yeah.
like the main rule is be funny. So like if you can go up there and talk about like serious stuff like Dave Chappelle, yeah, but or if you want to go up there like Joan Rivers and just tell jokes, that's
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing about like Dave Chappelle and other like he knows how to take this serious subject and actually put a punchline to it. Whereas some people will go up there and they'll just make like a blanket statement that's like, which I see a lot of comedians do this, and it's kind of annoying to me because it's like pandering where they're just like, I think all gay people should get married. They'll say, I mean, that's kind of an outdated reference, but they'll say like, they'll say something just to get the applause break where the audience is like, oh, your morals are good. And I don't really like that very much.
yeah.
Unless the thing that they're doing is leading up to a setup for their joke. But I
Yeah.
hate that like applause break right there. That's like, oh, I'm glad we all agree on this thing.
Yeah,
Like
like
I
let's
don't.
go the troops. And then like there's
Yeah,
no joke.
yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, that's a, the joke that actually we talked about this last week. The joke that got me in trouble at Leonard Tavern, you were there, which was like the joke I set up was like I think the most important thing in America right now is feminism. Feminism is
Mm-hmm.
the most important thing in America right now. And then like those girls like gave me like a little round of applause. I was like, oh no, you guys aren't gonna like the end of this joke.
You're gonna.
I was like, in fact, I think it's so important that I don't think women should be in charge of it anymore. And then the owner of and she was coming back from a funeral too.
Well, that was just bad circumstances. But that's I don't know if it's that night because you've done that joke I think a couple times at the Lantern open mic and like
Yeah.
after the show. I think I told you this. This guy came up this like I don't know, he's probably like 5, 6 years older than me, like this older kind of like big, huge gay white dude. Came up to me and he's like, well, how can you defend that guy? And I was like, I don't know. He's just telling a joke. I just host the show. I'm not going to cut him off because that's, we let everybody come up here and say whatever they want as long as they're not like inciting violence. You can say whatever you want. And I
I
was like, because this is a freedom of speech thing, and it doesn't really matter because there's like 40 people in this room and nobody really cares that much. And he was just like, no, you're setting back the gay movement. And I was like, okay.
wait. I think that okay, that may have been the same night is that because that night that guy was like upset because I said a bunch of like homophobic jokes and racist jokes, which wasn't true. Like I didn't say any homophobic or racist jokes.
I think he
And
took the one impression that he got from your set and decided to like add on different
yeah.
like things.
Yeah, because well, like my problem was that he was saying like if you don't like the joke, that's fine. So I went to chat with him afterwards to kind of talk to him, and then like he's like, "Well, tell me a joke." And I was like, "Well, I already told jokes." Like I was just like, "What was your problem with like that joke?" And then he's like, "No, tell me a funny joke." And he actually poked me, which annoyed me. And then so I was like, "No, just tell me what your problem was." And then I was like, and then he's like, "All your jokes were either like racist, homophobic, or sexist." And I was like, "Well, that joke was pretty sexist. I had a couple of sexist jokes, but like the other things, that
But
didn't happen."
that feminism one is pretty funny. I hate it like as a on principle, but it does make me laugh.
Well, like also, that one I think is just too stupid to get mad at because like I'm saying feminism is important, and then I'm saying that like it's so important that we should put a man in charge of that.
Yeah.
Like as if like it wasn't even a thing at all.
Because the punchline is anti-feminist.
Yeah.
It's a bait and switch is what it is.
Yeah. And so I was like,
but it's also just a joke. Like it's not like I don't think you really think that way. I think it's just a dumb thought that you had in your head that you thought was funny.
mm-hmm.
because that's what I was trying to tell the guy. And I was like, well, look, when this guy comes up here, he treats me with respect as a woman and as a gay person. So I don't feel like the things that he's saying are necessarily representative of what he believes. Sometimes it's just a dumb thing that you're saying. Like,
Well,
I
yeah,
don't know.
like comedy doesn't have to. Well, like that's another thing that I tell people all the time is like if you write something, that doesn't mean that you necessarily believe it. It's it's like sometimes you're writing like, well, what would somebody like this think or say?
Yeah.
Um, and your job is just to be funny. My job's not to necessarily like I know some comedians do, but like my job's not to speak truth to power. My job's not to um enlighten the crowd or make
Mm-hmm.
people better people. Job is just to make people laugh. And if like
Right.
those other things happen, that's great. And if you're a comedian that does that, that's fine. But yeah, like yeah, I could easily walk up there and tell people what I truly believe about all these things, which some people do, but it's not that funny and kind of gets old. Was
Well,
Corey and
I
I were
mean, you can make it funny because there are some
yeah,
jokes that I do that like have a socio-political message behind them, but the joke itself is funny. And I
yeah,
wouldn't say that the like I mean, I talk about my opinions all the time on stage to the point where like I don't know, some people have come up to me and been like, "Well, you're a leftist, blah blah blah," and they know that only from the comedy that I do, and that's fine because I am like I'm like
yeah,
borderline socialist, communist kind of person, and I'm glad that people know that from my jokes. But I don't think that I mean, not everything I say has a message. Like I love fart jokes. Sometimes I just do fart jokes because they're fun and everybody likes them. And I'm not
yeah.
making a political statement. I'm just talking about farts.
Well, yeah, like what I truly think about stuff, I just don't think that I just don't think like when I'm like on my soapbox, I'm that funny. Like personally, I don't think I'm that funny. I think that some people do that. I do have jokes that are intended to kind of like make a point,
Mm-hmm.
but like the first point of it is like be funny. Like one of my jokes, like that serial killer set that I do, is like I don't like dating white girls anymore. Too many people freak out when they disappear,
Yeah.
and I'm making fun of the fact that like when minority kids or minority people like disappear, it doesn't seem to make the news as much.
Right.
So, and that's like the point that I was making with that. But everybody misinterpret like if they want to, like they just want to be offended, so they'll just misinterpret that joke. Or
Well, because they're not seeing like they don't see the build up behind the joke. They just see the joke and they don't think like it came out of this greater context, this like larger piece of like you're giving them one bite of the hamburger, but
yeah,
that bite came from obviously the whole hamburger and they're not seeing the whole thing. They just see the one little piece that you're giving them.
yeah, and I guess that's like okay. Like I can't, you can't tell people. Like it annoys me also when like comedians are like telling audiences like this is how you need to interpret my jokes. Like all I want is you guys to understand that it is a joke. That's all I think that you guys are required
Yeah.
is just
Well, and
understand that
it's subjective too, but at the same time, I think it's important if somebody tells you this joke or this word that you said hurt me. I think it's important if you like are a decent person to be like, okay, I'm sorry and I won't do it. But there's
yeah,
a lot of people that will just like double down and be like, no, I'm gonna keep saying the F word or the N word because freedom of speech. Well, it's like, okay, sure. But that's also just mean. Like you're just being mean and ugly
yeah.
to people that I
I
don't know, don't deserve it necessarily.
yeah, I think so. Like my personal opinion on that is like much different than what like I would say as a comedian. But like my personal opinion is I don't think that we should give words that power, but those words have that power that we can't that and I personally think that we should do our best to take away power from those words so like a word doesn't have very much power anyway
Right.
beyond its context because I think that if you give a word that
Well,
much
but I
power
think I agree with that to a point, but I also think it's a dumb point for a comedian to say because the whole thing that comedians are doing is putting power behind their words to entertain other people.
hmm sure
Otherwise, they're just words. Like I don't understand when people are like words have no power. Then why do you do comedy? Why aren't you an accountant?
words definitely have power that's not like I think that words beyond the context like sometimes I can think people like are overly criticized for using certain words, even though the context was more or less fine, but they're
Yeah.
criticized because Viggo Mortensen was extremely criticized. Like to this day, like and people, and the way that people report it is also kind of weird about it. But like he used the N word when he was discussing the use of the N word in his movie Green Book. Like he used the N word while in context, and he was being very respectful about it. Like, and everybody gave him crap about it, and then like he had to apologize. When I was like, I kind of feel like the way that he used it was important to that conversation.
Yeah, because he wasn't calling somebody that. He was talking about the use of the word, which is like,
Yeah.
how are you going to talk about the use of the word if you can't say the word? If you're not supposed to say the word.
Yeah, and that's actually, there's a great thing where this reporter was asking Samuel L. Jackson about the use of the N word in Django Unchained, and he's like, "What N word?" And he's like, "You know, the N word." And he's like, "There's a lot of N words. Not, no, neither, none. Which N word specifically?" And it was just like this white reporter, and like,
he's like, "I'm not going to say it." Well, then
yeah.
I'm not going to say it. What are you?
He's like, "Well, you can't say it. We can't talk about it." He's like, "Go ahead and say it." Like, he's like, "I'll give you permission," and like stuff like that. And he's like, "Well, no." He's like, "I can't say that word." And he's like, "This whole thing won't air." And he's like, "All right, then we won't say it." And he's like, "It was a
That
good
would be
question."
terrifying, though.
Yeah, but deep
Like
down,
to have Samuel L. Jackson be like, "Go ahead, say it," because I'm like, I feel like this is a trick.
yeah, this is a trap.
But he should have just said it, because I'm still trying to work out this joke where it's like, the reason you can't say those words, which is kind of what we were talking about, is because these words are hurtful because they mean something to people, and the context in which you're using it is usually hateful. Like, people don't say, "I don't think dykes should pay taxes." Like, you can call me a dyke all day if you tell me that I don't have to pay taxes. That's great. They always say, like, dykes are going to hell. And that's the problem, is when you're using it in a context that's derogatory to the person that you are, or to the people that you are like demonizing, or the people that you are making feel less than you.
Yeah. So see, yeah, that there's dramatically different context to like that specific word.
Yeah. But
Right?
if I tried to do that joke one time, but I was using the words faggot and dyke as examples, and just hearing me say the F word, some guy in the back of the room was like, "Fuck you," and I was like, "You're not even listening." That's the point, is that you're just mad because you heard this word. But if you understood what I was saying, you'd understand that, like, I'm not saying this word to be hurtful. I think the thing that I said was like, I don't know, the government should write all fags checks. I said something that was like, it was a positive thing, but he heard the word and he didn't like that I said it, which I understand. And maybe I shouldn't say it. But I do think, like, it illustrates to people, especially people in Lubbock that don't necessarily understand why these words have power. It illustrates the difference between using it in a positive context that equalizes or pushes up, I guess, like elevates a group of people, versus something that pushes a group of people down.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. I like that. Yeah, there was something that I was working on, because like I think that like you can't use like certain words, and like it's actually a debate that me and a bunch of comedians have had, but like specifically there's some words you can use and stuff like that. So
are you in trouble?
Oh no, she was trying to tell me something and I got distracted. But yeah, no, I'm in trouble. I gotta go to timeout now. But anyway, so it was one that I was working on where I'm talking specifically about the N-word, and I was like, it should matter on the context, because if we give power to these words, like the only people who are going to wield those power are people that are going to wield them for evil. Kind of similar to the gun debate, but that's a whole different thing. I think the gun debate is different though. But
let's not start on that one.
Yeah, like if you outlaw words,
we'll never get to the news stories.
Yeah. So anyway, but this is true. We went to a bus station, and there was this white dude who was using the N-word a lot. And I don't have the guts to do this on stage yet, but like this is true. So I want to do an impression of the guy, but I don't want to say the N-word, obviously. So instead of saying the N-word, I'm gonna use the word freedom. And then, but like this guy was like just like talking to himself, and he's like, "Fuck your freedom. I'm a real freedom. Your freedom." And then so he's just going off, and I was like, that guy's saying the N-word a lot. And my friend was like, well, he gets to say it. And then I won the argument because like he agreed that there's one circumstance where you can use the N-word and it's okay. And then like I would end it, it was like, because that N-word's crazy. And then and that's but the point I want to make is like that there's
Was your friend black?
oh yeah, I
Oh,
should
okay.
mention that.
You should.
Yeah, so and that's kind of the point of the joke is, and like you want to make more
That
nuance.
is kind of funny. He can't say it. That crazy.
Yeah,
that's pretty funny.
And so, and I was thinking like if I had more guts, I would actually say the N-word on stage and then just get the hell off as quickly as possible before I got murdered. But I think that the context in that is fine and it works, but at the same time, I don't have the guts to do that on stage. I've been fine tuning that joke for like 2 years now, like 3 years now almost, and I've never done it on stage.
You should still do it. I mean, you've already stared into the face of death before in your horrible paragliding accident. What could you possibly be scared of now? People are gonna be mad at you on the internet. It's so dumb.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I posted that joke on Facebook, and everybody thought it was funny. But then like a couple of my cousins actually privately messaged me, and they're like, I didn't think that was funny. I didn't want to say anything on your Facebook because I didn't want to embarrass you. But
well, then they're fucking cowards.
Yeah.
They're just gonna DM you about it. Just post it on the comment for everybody to see. Okay. You want to fight? Let's fight.
It's like I will physically fight each one of you ladies. Well, right now I'd probably lose a fight. I'm not as strong as I used to be. That's the other thing is I think that if I go on stage with a walking stick, no one will fight me.
That's a good, nobody's trying to fight Cole, and Cole says, Cole's our comedian here that's in a wheelchair.
I know Cole.
Cole said, oh yeah, he says a lot of fucked up things and nobody's going to try to fight him because he's in a chair.
Yeah.
The worst thing that happens is like sometimes a group of ladies will get really upset with him and boo him, and he's just like, he'll go up and talk to them and like charm them up, and by the time he's done, they've bought him a drink. Like,
oh yeah. Well, like usually, like I don't mind talking to people. Like if I offend them, I don't mind like chatting with them like after the show. My only problem was with that one guy was one, like he wasn't like listening to me, like he wasn't willing to talk, and he kept on like saying that I said like racist and homophobic stuff, and I was like, I didn't say anything racist or homophobic. I think I did the black people meat joke, which is not racist or homophobic. It's a spelling joke.
Yeah.
But yeah. If you guys want to know the black people meat joke, you just got to go to one of my shows. I'll tell it there. All right, we should do a story.
We should do a news story.
Okay. Oh yeah, real fast. I have a show that I'm working on. I'm gonna post on my Nerd Rat channel. It's gonna be me and my twin cousin doing debates. My twin cousin, Poop Johnson.
Poop Johnson?
Poop Johnson.
Okay.
It's known as the Deuce.
Your twin cousin.
Yeah, my twin cousin, Poop Johnson.
Your cousin has a twin?
No,
or the cousin is your twin?
My cousin is my twin.
Is that a situation where like your dad is also your uncle?
No, we have different dads. Different dads, different moms.
Okay. Gotcha. Makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
I'm not a scientist or anything, but that sounds legit.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm not a scientist, but I'm naturally smarter because I'm male, and I'm kidding for those of you guys in the comments. Anyway,
okay, I think it's pretty abundantly clear which of the two of us is smarter. That's pretty obvious. I feel it's Yoda. Obvious.
That is not Yoda. That is Guru.
I don't fucking watch that nerd shit.
So I beat, and so I'm kind of like, it's sort of like a group home, but for like transplant patients right near the hospital. And so we were playing Trivial Pursuit, and I was dominating at Trivial Pursuit. And so they're like, you're really smart. And I was like, no, I'm not. Like, I'm good at like trivia and shit. That's not like real world smarts.
Yeah. Like, I think it only counts as smart if you can apply it to the real world.
Like to something that makes money. And we're not on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. So
I mean, I don't know if it makes you smart if you can apply it to something that makes money, because there are a lot of grifters, like right-wing grifters, that just know how to like Ben Shapiro, he's like really good at arguing because he went to a private school, and that's when they teach you how to use like logic and stuff, but his information is like where he gets his information, it's all false. So he argues based off of one article that says one thing, but that doesn't necessarily make him smart. Like he's intelligent, but he's not like right.
Yeah, like that's what so here's the thing about Ben Shapiro is Ben Shapiro will take like a nugget of truth, like an idea that's like true, and then he'll spin that in a way like it's actually really smart the way that he does it, to where he'll like start applying that to things that have almost nothing to do with that, but like the way that he builds it up, it seems like it's like a natural order when it doesn't. And don't get me wrong, like every now and then, like I'm not somebody that like
well, it's like he does it this way, like, okay, so my wife can't eat eggs, it makes her stomach upset, and she's Puerto Rican, right? She's a quarter Puerto Rican. So that's like saying
that.
quarter Puerto Rican.
Puerto Rican.
So that's me saying like, okay, my quarter Puerto Rican wife can't eat eggs, therefore all Puerto Ricans can't eat eggs. That's the way he sets up arguments, where he like takes one little, like you're saying, like one little example and then applies it and extrapolates to the point where it's like it has, it doesn't necessarily make it true just because you can talk real fast.
Yeah, and then the other one is actually an interview.
Get that paper, bro.
Yeah, and then it's an interviewing technique that they taught me when I was actually doing asset protection, where you don't let people give the answer that's going to, like, you don't let people lie, but like you can apply that to anything, to where you're just not letting people give the answer that you don't want. Like you don't want the this, because like every now and then you see somebody like stumbling onto like a good point when they're debating him, and he's so good at shutting that down and moving the conversation to where a place where he's not going to get hurt. Like he'll make his point, and like you'll see him like he interrupts, or like he'll like use semantics. And here's the thing is, I don't consider myself, like, I probably lean more left than right. I definitely lean more left than right, but I try to stay in the middle when I hear every topic, just so I don't get bogged down in the propaganda of it all. Because like Chris Rock actually had a great quote where he's like, there's no such thing as Democrat or Republican. Like saying you're Democrat or Republican is like saying you made a decision before you heard the problem. And I want to stay in the middle, because like every now and then, like I'll see like a specific story where I'm like, oh, we might be wrong on that one. Or like I think Trump, although like I don't like
well, you do nuance, that's all it is. It's
Yeah,
nuance.
like,
it's not like, because so many people, like you say, they bog themselves down, they pick their team, and that's the team they stick with forever.
Yeah,
but it's like,
and,
I mean,
and the idea that there's a good guy also annoys me, because like just because you're liberal doesn't mean you're a good guy.
Right.
Yeah, just because you're a conservative doesn't mean you're in the KKK. Like I think that there's a ton of nuance there. But the other problem that I have is if you pick a side, then like everything Trump said was wrong, which isn't true. Trump said like a lot of things. By the way, I want to make it clear, I don't like Trump. But like when Trump either on purpose or an accident said something that was correct, sometimes people would try to debunk him rather than being like, well, he's right about that. Like he was right.
I mean, there are a lot of things that you could point to that he lied about. You don't need to add additional things. You don't need to lie about the truths that he told.
Oh, dude, like you know how many threads on Facebook I'm in where like somebody's like, when did Trump lie? And I was like, oh fuck, I don't have this time.
I think there's literally like an entire Twitter account that's dedicated to all the lies that he's told, and it's like it's got like 20,000 tweets.
Yeah, and then like the response is, every president lied. I was like, yeah, but I mean, like some lied.
But if your argument is that he's not lying, and I show you where he's lying, and you're saying everybody lies, then your argument is bad. Like it's like when you write a joke, or when you see somebody write a joke and you're like, that's just a bad premise. That's usually how I approach things, where I'm just like, okay, I mean, I get what you're saying, but it's a bad premise. And you're not like, this doesn't fit. This doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
You just want it to make sense because that will make you feel good.
Yeah. I agree with that. That's a good way of saying it. Yeah. Like sometimes like people want to fit a square peg in a round hole. Like I've known people that have had like beliefs their whole life, and then Trump says something different, and then just because they're on Trump's team, like that's the new truth. when I don't know, like and the thing is, like, I don't like the idea of like losing friends over it. Like, I prefer to keep like an olive branch out. And there's like a huge difference with the people that like Trump. Like my dad was saying, like, there's racist people that don't want like their daughter to date a Mexican versus there's racist people that go to the border and shoot Mexicans. Like, he's like, there's different levels. There's a level that you can talk to, and then there's like a level to where, yeah, that guy shouldn't be in society. So my dad's Mexican, so like my dad's met those people.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Up close and personal.
Well, yeah, like my dad was kicked off a construction site. Well, he wasn't kicked off a construction site. He got in a fight on a construction site because they're like, that's the I don't want to use the word, but a very derogatory Mexican word that my dad had never heard at that point. But that's like your guys' water. And then yeah, so like, and then like when he went and talked to the other guys, he's like, oh, that's what that means? Fuck this shit. So then he went and got in a fight with that guy and got kicked off. But yeah.
I like that. I like that approach where it's like, we should punch racists. I like that. I think that's a good approach to have.
Well, yeah. If they really are racist, if you're making up the shit that they said at a comedy show, that's not okay.
No.
But you know, that's my only point on that.
Well, because that guy was doing like an actual racism. Like, he was doing a literal racism where he's like, oh yeah, this water is for whites only. Like, that's what he was doing.
Yeah.
And not just
and whitewater
saying something innocuous.
Better, so I don't even know. Do you want to hear something? Have you ever had this happen?
Are we gonna do the stories? Are we gonna do the news?
We should do that. You're right.
I mean, we don't have to. It's your show.
You're right.
You do what you want.
Well, I don't want Corey to get mad. Okay, so
what happens when he gets mad? His voice just gets really high. What is?
Yeah,
I think it'd be it. I don't know.
I don't think I've ever seen Corey mad.
I don't think I would be. I think it would make me laugh really hard if I saw him mad. If I saw him like yell at somebody angrily.
People love that when you laugh when they're mad. But
yeah.
Some people just have funny mad faces.
Well, and it's like, he's never mad. I think it would just be really entertaining for me to see him express an emotion outside of like depressed and goofy. Because whenever you when you messaged us the other day that we were going to talk about like times we had been fired or should have been fired and weren't, I was like, oh, I've been fired before. And he messaged me like personally. He was like, are you okay? You got fired? I was like, no. But he was like, oh, I was so concerned. I was like, okay, that's really sweet, but I'm fine.
I was actually wondering, the way that you said that, I was like wondering, I think she's joking.
No, I've been fired before. I didn't just get fired, but I have been fired before.
I've been fired. I've been fired 3 times. 1 time, well, 2 times I don't think I deserved it. 1 time, maybe. But 1 time for sure I didn't deserve it. But
yeah.
We'll talk about the firing things after this. So, Florida people. So, 2 very cool Florida stories. A man beat up an alligator and then threw it on his roof to teach it a lesson.
I want that man to be our president.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, he's got my vote. Why? Okay, why? What's wrong with Florida? That, like, you hear crazy stories come from everywhere, but there's just a lot of crazy stories.
It's always like Florida man.
Yeah, Florida man.
I don't know. Maybe it's the sun. Maybe they're just getting like a tiny bit of radiation poisoning all the time and they just don't know it. Like, it's not enough that they're dying from it. It's just enough to make them crazy.
Maybe. That must be it. Like, cause like they're like, man gets speeding ticket on jet ski on like on flooded highway, and you're like, that's not a normal story.
No.
That, man gets arrested for breaking into jail. That's a real Florida story, by the way.
Yeah.
The other one that you sent was the lady was skinny dipping.
In a stranger's pool.
Yeah.
And then when the police got there, she was like, I don't think they said she wasn't aggressive about it, but she was basically like, fuck off when she was trying to put her clothes back on. and she got like real combatant with the officers, not physically, just like verbally, I guess. She got a little mouthy with them. I don't know, but I like both of those people. I think they would both be really fun to hang out with. Like a guy who's like, I'm gonna teach this alligator a lesson. I'm like, what did the alligator do? I don't know that alligators are that smart.
Well, I don't know. Yeah.
Also, how do you throw an alligator? How big is the alligator?
That's a two-handed underhand toss, right? Like where you're like.
That's like you gotta swing. You gotta put some momentum into it.
Yeah, like it's not an overhand spiral. So
I think that should be an Olympic sport.
Throwing alligators.
I would watch the Olympics if it was throwing alligators.
They were trying to get, this was like a few years ago, they were trying to get dwarf throwing into the Olympics.
Dwarf throwing, like little people?
Yeah. And
I don't think that's true. Like
little
people throwing things?
No. It's grown men or regular sized men throwing little people.
Did they get that idea from the TV show Jackass?
No, that's something that's like a thing. That's like a thing they do. Like there's dwarf throwing competitions.
I don't believe you.
Look it up. This is the second time this has happened. Last week, Corey didn't believe me about Kim Jong-un executing 2 of his negotiators with piranhas. And this week, Selena's not. Dwarf tossing. It's like dwarf throwing or dwarf tossing.
Oh, God.
It's a real thing,
fucked up.
Ladies and gentlemen. And not only is it a real thing, they tried to make it an Olympic event.
Yeah, it does look real. That's real sad.
You know the little people are volunteering for it. They're not just catching them.
But I still feel it's like, I mean, I don't know. I don't like it. It'd be like, never mind, I'm not gonna say it. if you were playing like pin the dick on the trans person, but you used like a poster of Caitlyn Jenner. That's what what that reminds me of, where it's like you're just like, if Caitlyn Jenner volunteered for that, which is kind of what she's doing, like asking to be a Republican, is she's asking to be ridiculed by the people she wants to follow. Whatever. That's a separate point. That's a horrible thing I just said, but it's really bad is what I'm saying.
I would agree if I didn't know that it's a lot of little people and dwarves enjoy it, and it's like a big thing to them.
I guess it probably feels like flying for a second.
It probably does.
They have to throw them on something soft, right?
I think so. I actually don't know. I actually think that they throw them outside. But yeah, and
well, I guess another example of that would be like people that that are like women that are strippers, but they do it from a place where it's like, no, I just like stripping. But everybody thinks it's like demeaning, but sometimes girls just like it. I mean, I guess it's also just like, I'm a comedian and I like to talk about all my problems on stage and I want people to laugh at them.
Well, I think
it's like, really, it's kind of sad, but you know, let's laugh about it. It's fine.
There's a lot of parallels to stripping and being a comedian. A lot of parallels, except for stripping, the earlier
requires physical strength.
Yeah, and one requires, I guess, a little bit more mental strength. But you're both are exposing yourselves on stage.
Yeah.
One, you make a lot of money to start off with, and then that money starts dwindling. Where one, you make no money to start off with, and hopefully you start making more money later. One's a better career move, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, one's a better get rich quick kind of situation.
Yeah, well, I know a lot of strippers that make money. I know one comedian that makes money.
Yeah.
So, like.
So moral of the story: be a stripper.
Yeah. Yeah, I.
And let alligator tossing into the Olympics.
Alligator.
I'd be more impressed with somebody tossing an alligator than those like strongman competitions where they just pick up like big ass fucking rocks for no reason.
Yeah,
Like, unless you're like a landscaper, I'm not really impressed by the fact that you can pick up a rock. Like, can you put it here where I want it and then place a flower bed around it?
those competitions get me so psyched. Whenever I watch those competitions, like they're the dumbest things in the world. It's like the keg toss where like they're just chucking kegs. I was like,
Yeah.
I can barely lift a keg like and like carry it like this 20 feet by myself, and these guys are just chucking them over their heads. It's amazing what these men have like fucking ripped apart their bodies to
Yeah, I
turn.
just don't see like the practical use for it.
There's no practical use to most any sports, like
That is
baseball.
true. That is true.
Like if you're good at catching stuff, maybe that's about it. Like hitting stuff with a bat or throwing something really hard. It's not. There's no real practical use for that.
Yeah.
Football, like if you don't play football, none of those skills matter in the real world.
I mean, there are things outside of, and I don't really care about sports, but there are things outside of the actual game itself that I do think that sports can teach you, like teamwork and being responsible, being self-disciplined. It teaches you like social skills, even though some of the social skills are kind of fucked up.
Oh yeah.
It teaches you other things outside of the game that I understand are valuable, but the game itself, no value.
Dude, I love hanging out with bros. Like hanging out with comedians, I prefer because it gets more like mentally stimulating. But something about hanging out with like just like a bunch of dude bros, like you never feel inferior mentally. It's great.
You're just like, I'm smarter than all these idiots.
Sometimes I'm not actually. Like I'm only like Trivial Pursuit smart. Like I'm not real world smart. Like some of those guys like are welders and shit. Like they have like real world skills, and I'm like mechanics and stuff. Like some of my softball buddies have like real jobs and stuff like that. And I was like, I'm a good salesman, but that's not real.
We all have our cool skills.
Some of us have our cool skills. Um, so did you read the article about Kim Jong Un? And Kim Jong Un, this is the second week in a row I'm going after you, Kim Jong Un, because something about like if you
You
create
might
a
want to be
rival,
careful, dude. That guy's serious.
if you create a rivalry with your podcast, people will watch more for the
That is
drama.
true. That is true.
So I've chosen Kim Jong Un as my nemesis. So anyway, Kim Jong Un is a for those of you guys listening to the podcast, I pointed at the camera, but like
At Kim Jong Un.
yeah, at Kim Jong Un. So he probably one of the worst people in the history of the earth. Is not letting the youth, and actually is threatening death to the youth of his country for using slang, for using like K-pop slang, because K-pop's getting popular everywhere. So the North Koreans are using it, and he doesn't want them to use the K-pop slang and stuff like that. And I think that's no bueno.
I think that guy's just a hater.
Well,
I think if it was like, if the pop bands were from the North, he wouldn't, like, he obviously wouldn't ban it. He's just a hater. That's all he is.
I think that's how you know that he doesn't actually have that much power over himself, in that he let something dumb like that bother him.
Yeah.
See, here's the thing: is like dictators don't have as much power, like because they want you to believe that they have a lot of power. They'll take care of small, like they'll make a big deal about small things, but that kind of tells you why they don't have that much power. Like an American president telling people how to talk would be ridiculous because, well, first off, we have freedom of speech, but second, like that would just show how insecure our president is, which is
Well, it's also like, don't you have more important shit to do? Like,
yeah.
Where's my universal health care, bitch?
Believe it or not, North Korea does have universal health care.
That's great. Then maybe that's why he's like, I've solved all of your problems and I want you to stop
They don't
Using
have
these
great
slang
healthcare.
terms.
Yeah. Well, actually, a lady from South Korea, her and I are world record holders. I think that we're holding a title world record together of longest ECMO and getting a transplant. Me and a lady from South Korea.
So
So,
whichever one of you survives gets to be in the book
well, we both survived.
for now.
So, yeah, I think you just have to make it a year. So, I think
It hasn't been a year yet, has it?
well, not from my transplant, no.
Oh, okay.
January 30th would be a year. Paragliding, guys, it's dangerous.
Are you gonna have a lung birthday?
Yes, actually. Here. That's what a lot of transplant patients check it out.
It has like the date on there. That's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah. My mom got this for me. But yeah, like a lot of transplant patients, like they call it their second birthday. Oh my goodness. There's this little girl, Madison.
So now you get to have 2 birthdays?
Yeah.
Fucking selfish.
Well, okay. I have the same birthday as my older brother, Randall. Him and I were born the same day, but a year apart. So now it's kind of nice that I get something on my own. It's actually kind of bullshit. I crashed his first birthday party. Like a dick, but anyway.
Well, it's not like a choice you made. I think you can blame your parents for that one.
Well, I can blame my mom. I was like, Mom, like hold it in. It's like we're at a party. Okay. So
Do you want to do the SNL one?
yeah, because that one actually I was just looking at. That one is annoying me because I'm a huge proponent of like freedom of speech, specifically when it comes to comedy, and I understand that not all comedy, like if you're gonna do comedy, you're gonna offend people, like almost no matter what. Like unless you're doing like little kid comedy. And one of the name of the show is actually an idea that we came up with was like comedically correct is like it's funnier than it is fucked up. So like whatever joke that you tell has to be funnier than it is fucked up for it to be an okay joke, right?
Yeah.
Like you can tell like a dad joke, like you know, what do you call an alligator in a vest? An investigator. That's not that funny, but it's also not that offensive. So it doesn't need to be high up on either scale. But if you tell like a really offensive joke, it has to be really funny for it to be okay.
Yeah.
But sometimes like there's a joke that's like not funny at all, but super offensive. It might not even be a joke at all. It might just be that you said something racist.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I think it is. It's like a scale. So like there's politically correct and then there's comedically correct.
Right.
But anyway.
Well, I actually have I also think SNL should be canceled. Not because of the things that they're saying, but just because I hate sketch comedy and I think it's bad.
Oh. No, I love sketch comedy.
I think it's just all, to me, it's just like, this should have been a joke, but you couldn't finish it correctly. So now you have to act it out. And now it's supposed to be funny to me. And it's just a bad premise that never really found a punchline. Good sketch comedy is very good, very funny. The Chappelle Show, very funny.
Well, Chappelle Show
SNL has a good bit like once every month.
That's not true. I think SNL every now and like I'll give you there have been some SNL sketches where I was like but then there's like some that are just fucking hysterical. Like David S. Pumpkins, that one was great with Tom Hanks. Black Jeopardy, also with Tom Hanks, or the one with Chadwick Boseman, that one was great.
I think I did see Black Jeopardy.
Yeah.
I never really watched it. The only part that I ever care about for SNL is like the opening monologue.
I actually don't like the opening monologue usually, unless it's a comedian doing it. I don't like them. I just feel awkward.
Well, that's what I was. I only watch it when it's a comedian, but that's the only part I ever really care about.
Well, yeah. In fact, actually, like Bill Burr had a really controversial one that I thought was interesting. Same thing with Louis C.K. Like they had like really controversial ones that like were almost like you had to watch them just to be like inside the public because like everybody saw it. It's like every now and then something happens on Saturday Night Live that you have to see because everybody saw it. Like when I was actually watching live when Ashley Simpson had that lip syncing faux pas live on national television. Do you remember that? Because
That was a
everybody,
long time ago. But
yeah, but
yeah,
like that's my thing. It's like Saturday Night Live is always like in the
the
public zeitgeist.
zeitgeist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the exact word. I was gonna use a big word and make people think I was smart. I was gonna say zeitgeist, but
Beat you to it.
yeah. Thank you.
Because I'm smarter. No, but I think it is dumb the reason that people want it canceled, because it's like, I mean, they could have been canceled for a million things before, but people are complaining about it because it's making fun of their right-wing dictator that they love so much. And it's so dumb because like the Republicans want to, I don't know that I'm going to say, like the people that are in support of canceling it because it portrays an unflattering image, I guess, of their dear leader, their beloved leader, Donald Trump, are the same people that are like, well, what about freedom of speech? And it's like, well,
Yeah, that's another point I was gonna make. Is I think freedom of speech is important. Like even if you're in the Klan, I think that you should be allowed in America be allowed to say, even though I fucking hate the Klan, and I do think that they do border on terroristic. But anyway,
yeah. I mean, I
it,
think you can say whatever you want to do unless what you're saying is promoting violence, and then I think you should stop saying it.
well, I think that you should stop saying it just because it's shitty. I think that you should. I think the government shouldn't get involved unless it goes to that level. But yeah, I think that um there was this thing on TikTok where this guy was being arrested and his sergeant had to like stop the arrest because he's like you're actually like violating the law. And he's like he was arresting him for loitering, but the guy actually wasn't loitering. The guy was protesting, and you have a legal right to protest.
Mm-hmm.
So like the cop was arresting him for protesting, even though he had a legal right to protest. And his sergeant was like over there, and he's like, "What are you arresting him for?" And then he's like, well, he's over here creating a disturbance, and he's protesting, he's allowed to do that, it's freedom of speech. He's like get him, like stop chasing him, like what are you chasing him for? So
that's the one good cop that everybody's always talking about.
Yeah, well, that's like another thing is like I can't tell you like how many like great cops and shitty cops like I met. Like it's like comedy. It's like some of the shittiest people I've ever met are comedians, and some of the best people I've ever met are comedians. But my only problem with like my biggest problem with cops is like they'll stick up for their own when they know for sure that they're wrong. Because the Daniel Shaver
Well, it's the
one,
same thing that we were talking about earlier between like, you know, liberals and conservatives when they're like, oh, I'm only going to take this position because that's what everybody else is doing, instead of like,
it's my
you
team.
can criticize people. I don't know why people are so afraid to fight and criticize the people. I criticize people that I love all the time, and I want them to criticize me because it's like, if I'm wrong, I need somebody to tell me because I might not know.
Yeah. So that's my problem, because like I do think that I've had like I'd be lying. Like I've had cops bail me out of really shitty situations, and I've worked with a ton of cops before. That being said, I've also worked with a cop who's currently in prison for sexually harassing multiple women, and I thought that guy was a nice guy before I found out. So, Officer Becerra,
You might
Salvador
not.
Salvador
Just give
Becerra.
his badge number. Go ahead and.
I don't remember his badge number. I think it might be 4,000, but I don't remember. Actually, I think it is. But anyway, Officer Salvador.
I think what you're saying is you're kind of just a bad judge of character, maybe.
That's actually true. That's very true.
But you also wouldn't have interacted with him unless you saw him interact with women. You wouldn't know unless he talked about women in a certain way. I don't know. I think I know when like
he was extremely professional whenever I was around him. He was extremely professional. And one time I actually caught two strippers shoplifting. He was the arresting officer. I think it was him. I'm pretty sure it was him. And they were the worst. They were so shitty. Well, actually, one of them was nice. The other one was shitty. And then she had like $10,000 on her. Like it seemed like 10 G's easy. And she's like, "Why am I shoplifting? Look how much money I have on me." And I was like, I'm not. But
sometimes
anyway,
people shoplift for fun.
I think I think some people like feel like they just hate Walmart, so they're like, I'm gonna steal this shit. I'm not giving anyone money.
Same. Dude, when I used to work at Walgreens, I do have to go at 8, but we'll go real quick to like getting fired. I didn't get fired from Walgreens, although I should have, because I stole all the time. But they paid me like, I think it was like $7.69. So I just stole like every day. I would steal chapstick. I would steal like little
So just
tiny things of
subsidizing your income.
Vaseline. Yeah. That's what I was like, you guys, you fucking owe me. Okay. These hours suck. The pay sucks. And I'm always having to clean the bathroom where I think people literally just go to Walgreens to have diarrhea. Like they pick up their prescription, they have diarrhea, they grab a Coke, and they're on their merry way. Like,
Walgreens also seems like a place where they don't want you using the bathroom because it always seems like it's an employee only area when you go back there to use the bathroom. It
it's
doesn't seem
close to
like
one. I don't know. I never felt like like one time I was cleaning the bathroom, and when I was emptying the trash, I saw like 4 of those little mini wine bottles that somebody had stolen, and they were just like drinking it in the bathroom, I guess. That's how they party. I
that
didn't feel like people were shy about using the bathroom at the Walgreens that I used to work at in San Angelo.
that seems like a problem. Yeah.
It's
See
like that was either like a weird teenager or like an alkie.
that I would guess alky because weird teenagers like they still want to be social drinkers. Teenagers,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Unless they're like a teenage alkie.
maybe. So my story is Walmart. Both of them. Walmart should have fired me multiple times. When Walmart did fire me, it was actually for bullshit reasons. That manager just didn't like me, and so went back 3 months from like when I went hands on, and then like made up a story that I lied about it, even though like everything in the report was completely accurate. But because I went hands on with a shoplifter, they fired me when I was completely authorized to go hands on with a shoplifter back then. But they should have fired me multiple times. Oh yeah, and the guy that fired me is in jail right now for impersonating an officer and stealing from Walmart. And the other guy, yeah, no, like that's why he wanted to fire me was because like I knew what my job was, and he's like, well, I can't get away with stealing if this guy, because I was the most senior AP at that time.
Uh-huh.
And so like him, Ranger, and Sam, I'll use their real names. Fuck them. Like they're like, well, this guy knows what he's doing. Like we got to get rid of him. And because
That's
they
funny.
both wanted to steal from the company, and Sam and Ranger was the MAPM, and Sam was my APM. Sam
Why do you
stole
gotta be a
multiple.
narc though, dude? You should steal from Walmart.
Well, yeah, but don't fire me. Shit, nah.
Yeah.
Don't steal from Walmart. It's not worth it. Like
Steal.
they keep your picture forever. Anyway,
You should steal.
he was supposedly he was harassing multiple associates inside the store. He which I tried to call him out on before I got fired. Which is one of the reasons I think I got fired. He was stealing from the store and he was impersonating a police officer, and so he went to jail for that. And
Sounds legit.
and then Ranger got one of the APs, one of the other asset protection people, who was like only like 18 or 19 years old, pregnant. So, and he was like in his like mid 50s, mid to late 50s. So yeah, it's pretty effed up. But Walmart should have fired me multiple times because I have shown up to work drunk at Walmart multiple times. I accidentally stalked Diablo, or I think it was Diablo, but there was a new video game that came out, and I stalked it a week early, and somebody stole it.
Uh-oh.
So like that new video game was out in the world like a week before its launch, and I just accidentally stalked it early. Walmart should have fired me for that. One time I left bullets out. Walmart should have fired me for that. But they never did. And then one time I sent so like we had to do accident reports when I was AP, and because you're in a hurry, I'll kind of rush the story.
Okay.
They lost the video when we sent it, but it was just like, but they lost the video, and after like a month and a half, all the video deletes. But so by the time they told us that they lost the video was already gone. Like we couldn't get it back, and they want the 2 hours before and the 2 hours after because they want to see enough of the incident to where they can figure out exactly what happened. And so, but the lady was suing us, so they're like, "Hey, we lost the video. Do you have it?" And I was like, "No." But I saved the small clip of it because I liked saving the clips of when people fell because I just thought it was funny. And so I was like, "Hey, I actually saved it for training purposes. Do you want what I have? It's only a minute clip." And they're like, "Whatever you have, we'll take." So I redid it, did all that, right? But the other thing is I put little nicknames on all those clips. Yeah. So you know, like it was like old man loses fight with gravity. Little girl on slip and slide, like shit like that. And this lady was very simply titled "Fat Lady Eats Shit." That's all I titled it. And then
and you didn't think to like change the name before?
Well, I had a lot to do, so like I grabbed the video, made sure it was the right video, did that, typed up the statement, sent it in, and then like they sent an email saying like don't use foul language and whatever, right? And I didn't even think it was me. I didn't think it was me until like our MAPM came in for a meeting, and he's like, "Hey, I don't know what happened," and like I think because they didn't want to fire me, he's like, "I don't know who did this, and I don't want to know who did this." Like kind of saying, "Andrew, don't confess." But whoever the fuck sent this in there, "Fat lady eat excrement," which the way he said it was like worse. And then like
Eats excrement.
Yeah,
that sounds like she's literally eating poo poo.
Yeah, like it made it sound way worse than like me saying "fat lady eat shit." And then he's like, it's disrespectful. Like he was going off on it, and like the whole time, like I'm just sweating, and like the back of my, I was like, oh fuck. So yeah, they should have
But
fired
you
me.
didn't get fired.
No, because my manager liked me at that point. It wasn't until I got a new manager that wanted to steal stuff that I got fired.
That's the way the world works.
All right, so sorry we couldn't get to everything. Selena, I guess you have to go.
Yeah, I have an appointment.
You have an appointment?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, you know, obviously I don't want to pry into your personal life, but what is it for and everything like that?
I see a therapist.
You see a therapist? I actually also see a therapist.
It's for my brain though. It's not for my physical being.
Oh, I see a physical therapist. I have a brain therapist too. I was diagnosed with they say it's narcissism, but basically it means I'm perfect and I need to learn to deal with that.
I have that same thing. I do, but I have to go treat it like right now though.
Okay. Thank you guys for watching. Remember the podcast is still going. Please give us a like and subscribe. I've been here with Selena.
Follow me on Twitter at Selena Whatevers with the Z at the end. And come see me Friday, 2 Docks, Lubbock, Texas, 9:30. Okay.
Lubbock, Texas. All right. Thank you guys for watching Community Click Direct, and we are sorry for wasting your time. Later, Selena.
Bye.
Bye.